Hi, my name is Kendall Clements, and I will be presenting to you my applied assignment, which is on disability and public school education. This is my table of contents, just basically tells you everything I have in there: pre-work, research, new learning, and continued inquiry. I did not include it, but I also do have a reference page at the very end. For my pre-work, my topic was how disability affects children, specifically in public elementary school. Um, this information is crucial to educators to help push student success, and it's also something that I care about. I'll move my webcam real quick because, as you can see, I am a substitute. I am going to school to be an elementary school art teacher. In high school, I did 2 years of student teaching, and I've also been a substitute for 2 years. So teaching is definitely something I've always wanted to do, and it's something I always will do. So this is something that is, I would say, near and dear to my heart. So this was something that I had no problem choosing, that this was what I wanted to learn more about and apply more, because this is something that not only me, but all educators can apply this to their future career and their future classrooms. The aspect of inclusion was public education. So for my interview, I interviewed a woman named Jana Ramsey. She is a former classroom teacher of 30 years. She then moved on to be a district teacher coordinator, which you may not know what that is. That is basically just a classroom teacher who's moved up. Now they are a teacher for teachers. They coach and advise on things like curriculum and inclusivity and things. They basically just teach teachers how to do better at their job, how to push their students for success, and how to take their teaching to the next level. She has since then moved up to be a curriculum writer for her school district. So once again, she's working in the higher levels, but pushing things like, inclusivity with her curriculum writing. She's also my aunt. So I definitely had kind of like the hookup with that interview. As soon as I picked this topic, I knew she was going to be perfect. So I picked her not only because of the things I just said, but also because since she was a classroom teacher for 30 years, she worked firsthand with any kind of student you can imagine, and that includes disabled students. So her moving from just being a classroom teacher and teaching these students to then coaching her fellow educators on how to include students, whether they're disabled or whether it's physical or intellectual, how to include those students and how to, like I said, teach with inclusivity at their core. The background knowledge I have was nothing concrete, no real like facts, or I didn't have any like articles backed up on anything. Like I said, I was a student teacher for 2 years and I'm a substitute as well. So the only background knowledge I have is just basic things that I've seen firsthand. So for my course materials that I chose the TED Talk. I'm not your inspiration, thank you very much. I thought Stella Young was fantastic. I really enjoyed her TED Talk. And I basically used this video in my interview to set the tone. I wanted Miss Ramsey to understand that while I can appreciate the fluff that sometimes comes with interviews, that's not what I wanted. You're not going to get anywhere with fluff, especially not in something, in my opinion, as serious as this topic, because you're talking about the success of your students. That's not really something to joke about, in my opinion. So I wanted her to understand that I was looking for straight answers. And while it may be wonderful to fluff up how brave and strong disabled students are, they're really just students and they just need you to be their educator and push them for success. So I kind of wanted that to set the tone. And also, it was just a very wonderful talk. So I wanted her to see that. The other article I chose was More Colleges Enrolling Students with Intellectual Disabilities. That was the article that spoke about the colleges. I think it said 12 of them were providing scholarships for students with intellectual disabilities, and they were giving them the college experience, students who would never have had this opportunity prior. And so I sent this to her after our interview because I wanted her to understand where I was going with this. This inclusivity, we may be speaking specifically about elementary education because that's where I will be going when I graduate. But it doesn't stop there. It goes all the way up the ladder to college. We need to start with inclusivity at such a young age, such a low level, only to push. We don't stop just to push even further. So I wanted her to see that, like, when you push for inclusivity, it doesn't stop. It keeps going. People see that you're pushing and people push with you. So when you start breaking down those barriers, more people are going to want to jump in and break them with you. And it just doesn't stop. So that's what I wanted her to see. My own research, I found an article titled "The Biggest Barriers to Inclusive Education," and I found this one very informative because it again was more like a no nonsense approach to this. It just listed very typical yet very detrimental barriers that students face when it comes to inclusive education. Things like beliefs and attitudes, basically things that just don't really belong in education anymore, outdated beliefs, things that are harming our students more than they were ever helping them. So that was what I chose to include in not only my interview, but also my assignments this course, because I thought it was really good. Another one was how to promote independence for individuals with special needs, because just like Stella Young said in her TED Talk, disabled people are not here for you to make a spectacle of, oh, they're so brave, they're so helpless, they need help. No, they're people. So to promote independence at a young age would kind of break down the stereotype that that's what's needed, that they don't need a saving grace. So my evidence. This was my evidence of my interview with Miss Ramsey. It's basically just our email correspondence. She also let me know that I could email her if I had any extra questions. These are my interview questions. If you would like to pause and read them, you can. It's basically just about her public school education, how she's using her knowledge as a former teacher in her new job. What can we do to promote inclusivity? What can we do to break down these barriers? How far are we allowed to go? And what, as educators, future educators, do we need to know before we're going in? Let's move this real quick. Yes. New learning, inclusion. Throughout the entire course and this assignment, I have learned that inclusion in academic community may not be an easy topic to approach, but it is a necessary one. Specific barriers to inclusion, although they are unique to education, have no place in education. That ties back to the article that I linked about barriers in education. Things like attitude and belief, that, the outdated attitude and belief that disabled students do not belong in public education, which is just not true. Everybody deserves an education. Everybody deserves an educator that's willing to fight for them and push them for success. So that would be an example of a barrier to inclusion that's unique to education in that sense, but still has no place in education. Access. When we did our assignment about finding a place that had low accessibility, I ended up doing one of the schools I was subbing at. And so I found an entrance that was right in between the playground and the portables that was just stairs. And that could have been just physical accessibility wise. That could have been, detrimental to a student for the fact that they couldn't go that way. And there really was no other way around it. It was, you had to go that way. Otherwise you had to walk all the way around. Or the fact that they would just have to be separated from their class for absolutely no reason when there was ample room to build a ramp. So things like that. Learning that accessibility, although it's not, easily accessible for everyone, it should be, and we have to fight for it. Continued inquiry. Sorry, I keep moving my webcam. What I want to know is what tools and support exists for teachers to break down these barriers to inclusion? This was also a question that I asked Ms. Ramsey. I asked her, how were you supported as an educator? What tools were you given to promote inclusivity in your classroom? And basically just teach for everyone, as you should. And that was something I want to dig a little deeper into. So I will be going into my local district's policy and looking up, maybe talking around to some administrators when I go and sub at an elementary school, but I'm going to dig into that. My question, I'm pretty sure we're all future educators here. However, if you weren't, let's say you're not, from the outside looking in, what do you see or does someone else see in education barrier-wise that could be taken down by someone other than educators? How can people outside of education also help us fight for our students? And that is pretty much it. So thank you so much for coming to my presentation. This is my ending slide, and then I have my resources right here. Thank you so much for sitting through my presentation. I hope you learned something new, and feel free to reach out to me with any questions, comments, concerns, or if you would like extra resources, I also have some that I